I need to tell you a story. I'm sitting on an airplane and a flight attendant leans across my row and she goes, do you see anything wrong? And she's like pointing out the window. And I look out the window and I'm like, okay, no, I don't know anything about airplanes, but I look out, the engine is there, the wing is there, seems fine to me. She's like, okay, and leaves. And in a minute now, there are a few more flight attendants like coming to look out the window. Some of the other passengers are starting to chitter chatter, like what's going on. Eventually, flight attendants go back to their stations. A few minutes later, the captain's voice comes on the PA system. Hey everyone, you might have noticed some activity around the airplane window earlier. The crew was just addressing a run-of-the-mill engine failure. What? There's so many things about that sentence that blew my mind. Yet somehow, everyone on that plane exhaled and was fine. Let's zoom in on a couple of the things that went really well. First, the flight attendants assessed the situation. They didn't freak out, they didn't create a problem, they didn't say anything that wasn't true yet. They were just taking in information, confirming with each other, and then they huddled to discuss those observations before reacting. At that point, they then reported the consensus up the chain of command, executed all of the protocols and safety measures, and then they snapped back to their battle stations and prepped all of those other remaining things for the plane to touch down. Without inducing any panic, without communicating any kind of information that might create uncertainty. This is critical. The pilot immediately acknowledged everyone's unspoken fears. Hey, you may have noticed this is happening. Then he reassures us by immediately saying that it's resolved already, taking the stress away before we even understand what the problem is about, and then saving the scariest phrase, engine failure, for after all those things. Let's just talk about some of those human skills that happen. First of all, self-management. All of those flight attendants had to manage their own fear in order to think clearly and process the information that was going on. Judgment. You don't freak out. You don't just start shooting out answers. You go through a protocol and then you start developing your hypotheses about what might be going on and what it means for the state of the crew and the plane. The final human skill is clear communication. So they said all the things they needed to say in an order that was going to also help regulate the stress and anxiety of the passengers on the plane itself. Amazing. In conclusion, soft skills are not the full picture here. They do not communicate the deep value that they provide because this pilot managed the emotional state of the entire plane, allowed the crew to execute their protocols, and allowed the passengers to stay calm enough to let them execute those protocols. So whether you're a pilot, an educator, a coach, a director, the ability to meet people where they are intellectually, emotionally, and then guide them to a great outcome is a human skill with real business value, but only if we treat it that way. So I want to just give you 3 takeaways and apply to your own work. First, acknowledge what they already sense. You might be prepared to deliver the information, but the first thing that you need to do is acknowledge where those people are, either emotionally or intellectually, before you can reach them with that information. This is a classic scenario that I'm sure you've experienced when someone's eyes glaze over. You know that you might be giving out that info and it might not be going in. 2, remind them that they are capable of handling bad news. Motivation is a lot easier when teammates remember that they're a team and that big problems can require multiple people and multiple attempts. Even if you don't have a protocol in place, knowing that you will stick together as a team no matter what is the psychological safety that's required for high performance under stress. Number 3, respond, don't react. If you have a brain, you feel first and then we think. But that doesn't mean that we have to make a decision based on it. Instead, we take that slow breath, we create an actual physiological response that lowers your heart rate so that your prefrontal cortex can come back on and actually help you think creatively about problem solving. You can use human skills in a heated staff meeting, in a challenging parent conversation, an all team email response. They work at any altitude. So I want you to take this with you. And if you choose to keep following human skills training, you will get a little bit more detail, a little bit more color, and a few more human skills that you just might find are mega critical for the work that you're doing.